Well, good morning, everybody. It is Friday, and it's another cloudy, going to be a rainy day, I think, here in Lake City. Kind of dreary, which is appropriate for this day because, of course, it is September 11th. This is a day when we all remember the horrific attack in 2001 that occurred in New York City with the Twin Towers and the Pentagon and all of the other things that went on that day. It's a day we definitely want to remember and not forget that evil lurks amongst us. It's also a day when we want to remember the 2012 Benghazi attack and the fall of the embassy there in Benghazi and all of the unresolved issues with that that still remain 8 years later. So we want to remember both those things today. Don't forget, we never want to forget those things. The evil lurks out there to confront us. So, but with that, we are today. It's Friday, so it's one of my days off. So hopefully I'll be a little shorter here, and then I'm going to be off to enjoy the dreary day. I won't be doing much yard work or anything like that. This just today. So, any rate, we are looking at Luke chapter 4. We're going to finish up the they love me not. Yesterday we talked about the they love me section, which was 16 to what was it 22, which is the again that's the they love me section. Or I think actually we jumped back to 14. Excuse me, we went to 14 to 22 yesterday. So today we're going to look at 23 to 30. This is the they love me not section. Yesterday they thought Jesus was wonderful. And I think we just had a little bit of a hiccup in our transmission. I apologize for that. Gotta love the technology when it works, but we are on the data plan, not on the internet, so I can't blame Windstream for that one. So at any rate, let's jump right in and get started on 23 to 30 in the 4th chapter of Luke. He said to them, "Doubtless you will quote to me this proverb, 'Doctor, cure yourself,' and you will say, 'Do here also in your hometown the things that we have heard you did at Capernaum.' And he said, 'Truly I tell you, no prophet is accepted in the prophet's hometown. But the truth is, there were many widows in Israel in the time of Elijah, when the heaven was shut up 3 years and 6 months, and there was a severe famine all over the land. Yet Elijah was sent to none of them, except to a widow in Zarephath in Sidon. There were also many lepers in Israel in the time of the king Elisha, or the prophet Elisha, and none of them was cleansed except Naaman the Syrian.' When they heard this, all in the synagogue were filled with rage. They got up, drove him out of the town, and led him to the brow of the hill on which their town was built, so that they might hurl him off the cliff. But he passed through the midst of them and went on his way." Okay. So again, he just got done reading this from the Isaiah scroll. What we talked about yesterday was part of 3rd Isaiah. And then they have great expectation and wanting him to do all kinds of wonderful things for them there. And then he goes and quotes this thing where the prophets Elisha and Elijah, where they rather than blessing and helping Israelites, Hebrews, they went to the Gentiles. And this is a strange story, a strange thing for Jesus to throw up at this point in time, isn't it? The story of the widow in Zarephath is, you remember, she was getting ready to die, basically, for her and her son. She was going to prepare basically their last meal, and the prophet came and said, "Hey, make me supper," and she's not even Jewish. And she does it out of faith. She prepares the food, all that they had left, and then the Lord blessed her by making it such that the flour container and the oil container never ran out. And so remember that. It's this great blessing of someone who was not Hebrew. And then, of course, in the story of Naaman the Syrian, he's a Syrian general of all things. He's the commander, I believe, of the entire Syrian army, if I remember the story correctly. And he's cured of leprosy but he can't. The prophet doesn't even allow him to come into his presence. He just says, "Send someone to him. Go and wash 7 times in the Jordan, And reluctantly, after he first kind of indignantly doesn't want to do it, his servants that are apparently Hebrews talk him into doing it, and it was because of his Hebrew servants that he went in the first place. He went and did such, and was healed. So they're angry that he's basically saying, hey, I'm not coming to help those in the hometown. I'm going to help the others. I'm come to help the others. And there is some truth. We often talk about this. No prophet is accepted in his hometown. You're never looked up to as much in your hometown. It seems as with some exceptions, as you are outside. Your hometown grew up with you. They remember Jesus and remember all the things he did. So they're a little less able to just fully invest themselves in faith and believing in all of that. So there's that to it too. But I'm reminded when I read this myself, I take a little different direction on this. I'm reminded of Romans and Romans chapter 11, which I would encourage you all to go back and read Romans chapter 11. I preached over it not too long ago, a few weeks back, maybe a month or two. It hasn't been 2 months, month and a half maybe ago. Romans 11 is a great chapter. It's a wonderful chapter. It's a chapter we need to read and we need to contemplate and pray over. And in there, he's talking about, he doesn't want Israel to be, or he doesn't want the Gentiles to be arrogant, but that Israel had received a hardening to help bring in the Gentiles, and by that, then this jealousy that they might have, that would then bring the Jews back in as well. So it's kind of a paradoxical idea, and I think we have the same idea going on here, that Jesus is in some ways, you guys don't believe me, so I'm going to go help the Gentiles, and then maybe you'll believe in me. Kind of a sort of a thing, which is really interesting. It's counterintuitive in some ways. The last will be first and the first will be last, though, is counterintuitive as well, isn't it? So it's that reversal, that role reversal that we see so often in the New Testament. And it's something we need to remember, that, by golly, we don't want to be too full of ourselves. And I do preach against ego a lot, as you should know, because I think it's one of the biggest things that gets us in trouble in the world. And I think here Jesus is in some ways preaching against the ego of his hometown. They're thinking that, what can you give us? It's not about what can we give to God, but what can you give us? Can you heal us, all these things, and give. Not let us give back to you. And at least the widow there and the commander there in that stories that he's referring to, they wanted to, all they had was to have faith in it. They had no other thing to in fact, in the story of Naaman, he offered up, I believe it was silver to the prophet, and one of the prophet's servants took it and deceptively, if I remember that story correctly, and that caused all kinds of problems for the servant. So it's not about getting, it's about giving. It's a long story short. So with that, I'm going to let you go, and we're going to be back tomorrow, and we'll talk then. And don't forget, Sunday service is at 10. We'll be live streaming it, but depending on what the weather is, we may or may not be outside. That we have to decide Sunday morning when we see what the weather is like. Usually at 8 o'clock, we gather at the church, a few of us, and make a decision then between Clyde and Scotty and Bill and I usually. So we'll let you know. It's another one call, and we'll put it on Facebook. But with that, have a blessed day, and as always, I leave you be a blessing to someone today. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.